Hey guys, what's up? It's Stacking Chairs, the youth ministry podcast all about serving in youth ministry. Whether it be youth camp or youth group, whatever God has you serving in, that's what we're talking about. I'm one of your hosts, Josh Paul Amos. I'm joined by my fellow host and good friend,
Kyle Gray. I was sitting there and I was like, I wonder what it looks like from Josh's perspective.
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed, a couple episodes ago, I actually stuck my head in front of the camera as well at that same kind of angle. But if you're not watching the episode, you can be on YouTube.
Hey, Josh, did you know that you can watch these episodes?
I knew that.
I knew that too. Hey, Josh, I love being able to be a part of this thing, and it's been encouraging. I know we said several times, but it's been encouraging hearing ideas that other people have, ministry tools that people say, hey, why don't you guys talk about this? Because when I was in Texas working with local churches, my heartbeat through the avenue of Word of Life, the organization that we work for, was to help churches to accomplish what they value in a way that adds value to their ministry, but in such a way that they don't feel like they have to be the ones that do everything. You know? And so that's what I've been praying that this is something that speaks to add value into what people's ministries are, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But to speak about things that they value as well. And so it's just been really, really kind of cool to hear from different people that we're building that connection. We're building that bond. We are speaking those things. And so again, please listen, if you're out there and you are out there, you're listening, let us know. What can we talk about that's important to you? What would bring value to your ministry? And again, Josh, the other thing that I've appreciated is that we're not here to give all the answers, because I don't know if you know this. You're not an expert in youth ministry.
Which is a surprise to me.
And I'm not an expert in youth ministry.
Yeah.
Is that a surprise to you as well?
That is also a surprise.
Thank you. It's a surprise to me. But genuinely, like, I don't think we're here to give the answers. I think we're here to talk about ideas, to create a place of conversation, to engage these youth leaders, these children's leaders, these parents, these pastors, to engage their community and have a conversation. One of my old bosses, Mike Calhoun, used to say, I was an expert in children's ministry until I had children. I was an expert in youth ministry until they became teenagers. And then I was an expert in family ministry. And then once they had families, I realized I'm not an expert in anything, Absolutely. And that's sometimes how I feel. But as soon as I step into something and go, all right, I'm here to teach you all. I'm clearly in the wrong room.
Well, and you've probably already lost the people that you're talking to.
Yeah. Now, there are some people that say, like a Doug Fields. Doug, if you're out there and for some reason you hear this and you want to be on this podcast, yes. I don't care if you want to talk about how to properly stand in lines waiting at the porta potty. Like, whatever it is that you want to talk about, Doug, we're here. Some of you other guys out there, Ed Newton, Craig Rochelle, we could go on and on and on.
This is an official invitation?
This is, listen, this is it. Absolute. Chuck Swindoll. I lived in Texas near Chuck Swindoll. And me and my discipleship boys went through one of his books, and I still kick myself to this day.
You didn't try and meet with him?
I should have reached out and said, hey, could me and these two boys just sit down and even take 15 minutes with you and just hear your heart on this aspect of the life of Joseph? We read his Great Stories of Faith book on Joseph, and I kicked myself. And so I decided, some people have I don't think I've talked about this on the podcast. Have I? Oh, I have.
Got him.
My bucket list. Alistair Begg. Alistair, I was going to do a Scottish accent, but then I feel like that would be like insulting to him. But like, Alistair, Dr. Begg, Mr. Begg, whatever, I'm begging you. I'm sure people have said that to him. That's stupid. Whatever. Cut this out, Josh. And now you're going to leave it.
We got a solid, I'd say, like almost 5 minutes of this. I'm
stupid.
Good about
Hey, Josh, today we want to talk about youth ministry, but really more importantly, connecting with parents, whether it's children's ministry or youth ministry or whatever, but building that ministry to parents.
Yeah, and we were saying earlier, it's kind of like Word of Life is a parachurch organization, and I heard someone, Mike Nichols said to me, he said, we're a parachurch organization, we're not a parasite organization, and I think it's really important that we take that same kind of value and we put it into when we work in youth ministry, that we're working with parents, we're not working instead of parents. Parents are the first line of ministry to their children. We're an aid to that. Just like Word Life is an aid to churches and an aid to people, we're an aid to parents, and we are part of their ministry to their children. And I think it's important that you build those relationships.
Well, and it's the age-old question, how much do you involve outsiders in your youth ministry? Well, that can be a very easy question, but there's a lot of times you can view parents as outsiders.
Yeah, I think it's an unhealthy perspective.
I think we can even do it in children's ministry. Now let's be completely honest. And I get it. Some of you are listening or some of you are watching right now and going, yeah, but you don't understand the parents that are represented in our church.
Yeah.
They don't want to get involved. I told that story one time about that mom that would literally drop by and say, all right, I'm going to the mall or I'm going out like shopping or like whatever. Like I get it. I absolutely get it. And frankly, for some of these parents, that may be the only time they get to breathe. And so I get it, but it's not that I still think we have to remember they're still choosing to drop their kid off.
Yeah.
They're still choosing to bring their kid to, so there is, instead of automatically starting with this place of a wall.
Yeah.
Understand that they are desirous of the connection that you bring.
Yeah.
Even if they're going, well, when I get to heaven one day, I've got to show Jesus my drop off the kids to the youth ministry card, that shows my good attendance, or making sure my kids have good attendance.
But obviously there's some kind of value that's involved in their head, that youth ministry, the kids ministry, whatever that ministry is, even camp, like there's some kind of value there for that parent. I think it's our duty and our responsibility there to take that value and then make sure that they're still connected to the relationship and to the value, and make sure that they see that value and then they can take that value and make it applicable.
Well, and to continue on our rant about value. Yeah. I was thinking about this earlier. Why would parents, let me ask you that question.
Sure.
Let me start that again. So here's a question I've been thinking about.
Yeah.
If we want parents to value what we value, we have to show that we value what they value. Because why should a parent or why should anybody value what I value if I don't display in any way, shape, or form that I value what you value? That's only promoting followers and leadership of like, I'm in charge and you just do exactly what. No, listen, the church, I don't think was ever meant to be anything outside of a community of believers.
Yeah.
Does there have to be leadership? Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Does there have to be organization? Yes. Does there have to be hey, this is our focus, and so therefore this is the direction that we're going in? Absolutely. Do we have some situations where there's way too much going on, which is what I think we can talk about today a little bit? Yes. So does that mean that there are some things that we are going to do and some other things that we aren't going to do? Absolutely. But that should never be at the neglect of connecting with what these parents are valuing. Because when we communicate, hey, I want to help you to accomplish what you value, I think it draws people in to want to be a part of what we're doing in the ministry.
Well, and you want parents to, like, all right, as a parent, and I'm learning this, but I'm still a new parent. My daughter's, not even a year old.
Honestly, I tried to talk to your daughter last night and she would just like gibber. She was just like,
yeah, she can say bye-bye now.
Yeah, that was pretty cute.
It is cute.
That was pretty cute.
But I think it's important. Like, even as a parent, I think about, okay, what school am I sending my kid to? And I know that's like 5 years down the road or 4 years now. What school am I sending my kid to? What is my church going to be teaching them? So I have to be intentional about picking, for my wife and I too, we are intentional about picking the church we're in. But there's going to be people that are speaking into her life, even the person who babysits her. Like, there's people speaking into my daughter's life. Do they reflect my values? And I care about what they're teaching my daughter.
Yeah.
So like that whole value conversation, we also think about, what are we teaching these kids? Yeah. Do they match their values, but do they also match their beliefs? And making sure that we ask those questions. You can't do that without a relationship with that parent.
Well, and I think it's the idea of you're working with, you're not working against.
Absolutely.
Because like it or not, Josh, and some of you ministry leaders out there, I don't know who it is that needs to hear this. I don't know who it is that needs to hear this, but let me remind you, or see this. Let me remind you, they have more time with those kids than you do.
Oh yeah.
It's like there are times in different ministries that I've been a part of. Okay. I've worked at a multitude of different camps within Word of Life, outside of Word of Life. And sometimes the view can be, hey, leaders, parents, can you just kind of get out of the way so we can do our week of camp?
Yeah.
Sometimes, and I'll be honest with you, sometimes it can feel like that would just be a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
But Josh, why do we then expect them, or why do we hope that they will then pick up the mantle that we laid out for these kids if they're not involved during the week, if we don't communicate to them what they're learning, what they're a part of? That's why I love shameless plug for Word of Life, the Coast here. All right. Actually, shameless plug for all Word of Life camps, because I'm pretty sure that we all do this.
Yeah.
We do this thing called talkback time, where you can take your kids, you can step out of our schedule. In fact, I look at leaders and I say, listen, we're going to give you 2 times. If you want to do a third, in fact, if you want to do devotions with your kids, obviously guy and guy's cabin, girl and girl's cabin. But if you want to be involved in that, we'll do that. The only thing I ask is you don't take your kids out of a meeting, and you try not to horribly mess up their bedtime schedule. There's some youth groups that are like, hey, can we do the late night pizza, just all of us? And I know that that's going to extend probably their bedtime a half an hour later.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, can we just keep it to about this time? Because if the kids are asleep the next day, they won't be paying attention at all. But again, sometimes you have to remind yourself, whether I like it or not, and whether these parents like it or not, they take these kids home at the end of the night. They take these kids home at the end of the week. And then it is their influence. And frankly, their influence is a whole lot deeper than our influence.
Yeah. Well, how arrogant is it of us to assume that we can affect a change in a week that a parent can affect change in a year? Or as a youth leader, even one night a week, or maybe 2 nights a week, that a parent can affect every day of the week and throughout the year. Well,
it's like the idea of, let's look at it from the adverse effect.
Yeah.
Smoking. How many times does a kid grow up and, man, my parents smoke. I will never smoke. I will never smoke. I will never smoke. And when we look at the statistics of that, how it lays out, more times than not, unfortunately, they end up smoking.
Yeah.
Josh, I think statistics and history positively demonstrate that our kids do church and ministry largely based on the way that they've watched us as parents do church and ministry, not the way that they've watched the youth pastor or the pastor or those people in charge. Now, does that mean that they don't have any influence? No, absolutely. Constantly, I thank my junior high youth pastor or other youth leaders in my life and I say, thank you so much for the discipleship that you've had in my life. That's why I think it's helping us come alongside of these parents and saying, hey, how are we building a ministry to work with them, not against them? I think we have to do some introspection. Is that correct word?
Yeah, I think so. Introspection.
Okay. I make up words all the time.
Then we
Interspectative of the dialysatical regencies. But I think we have to do something. I think we have to identify what the culture is.
Yeah.
I don't know how long you've been at that youth ministry, that children's ministry that you're in, that church that you're in, but there is a current culture of that church. And I think you have to ask yourself, okay, what is that culture? And is that the culture we want to be here?
Yeah.
I think then you also have to ask yourself, what is the culture we want and what do we need to do to create that culture? And Josh, culture doesn't get created in a year.
No.
Culture doesn't get created in 6 months. Now, some aspects of that culture can get created.
Yeah, you're right.
So what we're talking about today is, how do you create a culture that connects with parents? How do you create a culture that works with parents, not against parents? Even some of those parents that you look at them and you want to go, why do you drop your kids off here?
Yeah.
You literally spend the rest of the week telling your kids, I don't believe in God. That's a stupid thing. It's a waste of your time. And yet you keep bringing your kids back, right? But how do you even in that aspect work with that parent, not against that parent?
It kind of makes me think, like, I think you've said this almost without saying it directly, but you can't have an effective, tell me if I'm wrong, but you can't have an effective youth ministry or a kids ministry or even a camp ministry if you don't have effective parent ministry or adult ministry in your church or in your camp.
I think you're definitely hindering yourself.
Like, so maybe you can.
I only course correct that a little bit because I don't want to say it can or can't be effective.
No, sure. And we have kids in our youth group who their parents don't come to church at all. Right. And the only church that they have is coming to youth group on Wednesday night because the parents see the value. Of course, I'm not saying that those kids don't have effective youth ministry happening to them.
Right.
But what I am saying is that if you want to see those kids be able to grow in the home, then you have to have a way that parent is being reached as well. And I think it's important that if we have a kid whose parents aren't coming to church, that we continue to be that relationship to those kids. We continue to do those things, but also with another intention of also reaching that parent as well.
Well, and I go back to even the story that is in my own home. My wife, her mother, my mother-in-law, knew that she wanted her daughter to go to church because that's the good choice.
Sure.
You send your kid to church. But the church that my mother-in-law was attending when my wife was young was a very stale, stagnant, not life-giving church. And so my mother-in-law, obviously the sovereignty and beautiful wisdom and guiding of the Holy Spirit and God, but my mother-in-law chose this church and started dropping off my wife when she was 4 years old, 5 years old, to go to church there. But she would just drop her off for essentially the Sunday school time period.
Yeah.
Okay. And my wife at that young age would hear about this kids church, and I forget what they called it, but children's church or whatever.
Sure.
And so she kept on saying, I want to go to that. I want to go to that. I want to go to that. And my mother-in-law was like, if I'm not going to leave you there at that place for like 3 hours that day, because there was Sunday school and then there was a little bit of break where nothing was going on and she wasn't going to have her kid wandering the halls. And then they went to church and then they got dismissed and went back to children's church. And my mother-in-law was like, I'm not going to do that. I can't just leave you, and I can't have these random people that I really don't have a relationship with or know.
Yeah.
If I'm not there.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Over time, my daughter, my wife, kept on pushing on that button that my mother-in-law was like, okay, fine, I'll go.
Yeah.
Through that, my mother-in-law came to know Jesus Christ as her savior.
I never knew that story.
Then my wife at a young age came to know Jesus Christ as her savior, which then her sister and her dad came to know Jesus Christ as her savior. And then check this out. This is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Years later, after we got married, we were in a conversation with her dad, and he was like, this was after he came to know Christ. I mean, it's awesome story. We find out his great grandparents came to Bermuda and started that church.
Really?
How awesome is that?
Wow.
But that there was a breakdown and a disconnection with the family that then led to them not going to church at all, and then brought it back around. But again, I bring that up of the difference of even sending your kids to church can impact that whole entire family.
Yeah. Amen.
So how are we doing that?
Yeah.
And I would say, Josh, I think it's adopting the mentality of you are in partnership, or you are not there on your team, you're on their team.
Yeah.
You are partnering with the parents. Normally when we think of a game, we think your team versus my team.
Yeah.
And so if you're working against me, but no, that's not how it's not parents and youth leaders or parents and children's leaders or even parents in the church. We're all one team. Yeah. And so I read some different things. Yeah. I compiled some different ideas, and I'd love to just talk about them if that's okay. Yeah. So number one, do you pray for parents? I think if you want to have a team with these parents, I think you've got to pray for them, which again takes us to the place of, do you have a relationship with these parents to know what to pray for? It's when I was out in Texas, I had this one church. It was a small little awesome church, godly, faithful leaders. And I remember one time saying, because I heard my boss say it and I heard other people say, hey, if you need anything, let me know. And the pastor's wife at one point said, we will, but you can call and check on us every once in a while to see if there's something we do need. And I thought, do we do that with parents? Yeah. Do we say, hey, if you need anything, let me know? Yeah. And they're thinking in the back of their head, yeah, but why don't you check in with me on a regular basis to find out what I need? Yeah.
Because it's an easy cop out. It's just say, hey, let me know if you need anything. Yeah. You might not actually mean it, but if you call someone and say, hey, is there anything I can do for you to serve you this month? Absolutely. That is a real way to, wow, that's cool. I like that.
Number two, one of the blogs that I read, and I thought this was a great idea, said, make yourself available. Do you have times and ways that you make yourself available to parents? I immediately go to that parent-teacher conference, which we don't always look forward to.
I was thinking of that relationship the whole time we've been talking about this.
But honestly, the whole idea of, man, do you have a time where you're just connecting with those parents? Do you make yourself available to talk with those parents? There's nothing more powerful than you going to that kid's actual home and sitting in their house and getting to know their environment. Yeah. Having a meal. And absolutely, I'm not advocating invite you, hey, when am I coming over for dinner? Okay. but are you building that relationship so that parent says, man, you want to be in my home?
Yeah.
Or, hey, why don't you come on over for dinner? We did that with a couple the other night. We said, hey, we should get together for dinner. Next thing I know, they invited us over to their house. And I said to my wife, I hope they don't feel like that's what we were going to invite them over to our house. And my wife was like, it's okay. Which is fine. It was great. We got to see their home. We got to see their dynamic.
Yeah.
But they were opening up and making themselves available to us at the same time. It was really, really cool to kind of build that. And are we doing that with the parents? Now, I understand there's some of you that are out there that you're saying, Kyle, but the breadth of my ministry, there's no way that I can do it, which again, Josh, is why we have leadership help.
Yeah. Like me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm around for.
Absolutely.
In my youth group. Sorry, if you don't know that before, I'm a youth leader in my youth group, my youth pastor. So I get to be an aid to him through that, which I love.
How are you communicating what are you communicating?
Yeah.
One of the guys, or girls, whoever, the person that wrote the article, essentially asked this question. This is their question in my words. Do you have a calendar of events, and is it accessible to parents?
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, let's think about this in the context of children's ministry. They're probably not walking out the door. So you're handing a piece of paper, but you're not guaranteed whether that piece of paper is going to make it to the parents.
Yeah.
So then the next question is, okay, well, how can we make sure that this announcement goes in the white noise of all the other announcements on Sunday morning that's going out? But do you have a calendar, and how are you making that available to your parents? And the article that this one came from talked about, is it set early enough? Mm-hmm. Not early enough for you. Is it set early enough for these parents?
Yeah.
That they can know, which is why I believe you ought to do regular yearly calendar planning and monthly calendar planning. And I think if you want to be the most effective, you ought to do it at least a month to 2 months out.
Sure. Depending on the size of it.
Yeah. But to say, okay, hey, here's what's going on. Because now a parent can go, all right, they're managing and juggling everybody else's schedule, everything that's going on in their house.
Yeah, all the sports schedules.
Exactly. And again, we like to think that our ministry is the most important ministry that's going on. Okay, well now, pause for a second. Now let's not only look at it in the scope of the children's ministry, let's add in a lot of homes that have a child and have a student and youth group. Mm-hmm. So now, do you as a church have two totally different events happening at two totally different times?
Yeah.
Because you only have one small building, but you still have to realize you're asking parents to say yes to this and no to something else.
Yeah. You're like that teacher who gives a ton of homework and assumes they're the only teacher giving a ton of homework.
Absolutely.
And then there's the other teacher who does the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you don't want to be that.
And with that communication, how far out is it planned?
And hopefully your event is more fun than homework. We hope so.
Hopefully. So we did there's a storm video out there that you can find a really young version of Kyle. And we joked about, like, when a storm stands for sending teens out to reach the masses. It's an evangelistic event. It's phenomenal. In fact, if you are not connected to a Word of Life missionary in your area, you need to get connected. On the lower thirds of this will be a website, a web address that you can find out, hey, how do I get connected to the missionary that's in my area, that they can help you do evangelistic events right there at your local church and connect with you there. But in that video, we joke around about, hey, you got to come. It's the idea of the church has got this thing planned, but it's that spur of the moment. You got to come to this event. Oh, absolutely. I want to be a part of this. And then you end up seeing unsaved kids, inviting unsaved kids. Yeah. We've seen phenomenal things happen through this ministry, but, and so we walked through some of the excuses. Well, I haven't eaten dinner yet. Well, we're going to eat at the church. Well, I haven't taken a shower yet. Okay, go take a shower. We'll wait. Well, you're going to take like 15 minutes. I got homework. We all know nobody does homework. But
that's funny.
Obviously, that's not what we're promoting. But
but we don't do every event like a storm event where it's the last minute.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to get ahead.
Absolutely.
Of it. And for the sake of the parents and for the sake of the kids.
Absolutely. Next thing, don't put yourself in a position of being the parenting expert. And let me take a step deeper into this. Don't treat every kid like they're all the same.
Yeah.
Which I think we know.
Sure, we know it.
But how many times do we step into, you may be an expert and you may be an expert in certain things, But I think even then, we shouldn't walk into a situation as if we are the expert. The minute that I walk in thinking that I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that even that, like you said before, that doesn't communicate value.
Yeah, you're right.
That I don't even know what that communicates. I mean, but it's definitely not value.
Yeah. And you're not gonna be able to, I mean, what's the old phrase about honey? Like you attract.
Oh, you attract more flies with honey than with trash.
Yeah,
or with vinegar. Although both of them attract flies. You know.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's, you know, I may be an expert. Mm-hmm. I may even know more about parenting or think I know more about parenting than this parent.
Read more books.
I've read more books. I've written more books. I own more books. I just don't read them. You know.
I have plenty of books on my shelf. I've never read any of them.
But that builds a wall. Yeah. That puts me on a tier and them on another tier. But when I come alongside of them and I want to help them with the situation that's going on. Yeah. I do think that unfortunately, I think we as the church have hurt a lot of families because we've built up walls and we've boxed people out. And I just think we have to be careful to connect. Because people want to be a part of something that they're connected to. People want to be a part of something that they feel valued in and that they feel like they can extend value to. Yeah. Next thing, make and have parenting meetings that are easy to attend and beneficial to attend. Remember I talked about that one time that guy got all of his youth leaders together and he talked on and on and on and on and on, but never explained how to get involved. Go back and check out that episode. I think that was episode 2 or 1 or episode. But do we do that with parents? Yeah. Now, again, I shouldn't say again, my concern is that some of you are out there saying, hey, we did that and nobody attends them anymore. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, again, ask yourself, why? Is it because they're not easy to attend? Or is it because they're not beneficial? Is it because they're too long? Mm. You know, you may have to go back and say, instead of doing one meeting with 10 parents, we're going to spread ourselves out. And we're going to have 10 dinners with each parent and have, not the dad and then the mom. Well, although that might be the case, you know,
with each set of parents or guardians, of course.
This one hit me the most because as a dad, of teenagers and of children, even a guy that's been in ministry for a really, really long time, there's sometimes I'm like, my daughter has never turned 16 yet. Guess what? I don't know how to parent a 16-year-old. Sure. I'm going to figure it out and hopefully know how to do it better for the next one and the next one and the next one. But don't expect parents to know how to disciple their children.
Interesting.
Don't expect the parents for you just to be able to go, okay, I'm going to give you a sheet of paper. Mm-hmm. It's going to talk about, here's what we talked about in the lesson. Yeah. Here's questions to ask. Unless you want that parent to go, are parents an important piece of the relationships built with students? Oh, I'm sorry. Josh, are parents, do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Have you ever had a time of connecting with those parents and saying, hey, let me go over, this is the sheet that we give you guys every single week. Yeah. Here's the heartbeat of it. Here's how to use it most effectively. Or do we just hand out a piece of paper and just expect these parents to just know how to invest? I think that can be terrifying.
Yeah, sure.
I know in my life, I felt terrified. It's absolutely easier for me to pour into somebody else's 16-year-old than it is for me to know how to, because I know my kid a little bit better. Yeah. You know?
Wow. That's an interesting perspective. One that I'm going to have to traverse, especially as my daughter gets older.
But just the idea of, are we welcoming parents in? Yeah. Are we involving them where we can? Ask different parents. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you can be involved in our ministry? Yeah. Or do you feel like you're an annoyance? Yeah. That's an important question I think that we should ask and can ask. Yeah. But just it gives the whole idea of encouraging the relationship with parents, supplying them with help. I think it's a great idea to give them follow up to the lesson. I think it's a great idea to give them take home sheets that, but even that, if you're automatically presuming that most of the kids in your church are a mom and a dad riding home with that kid, that mom is reading the card or dad is reading the card while the other one's driving, that's not necessarily the situation that we're in. And I would even project that that's probably not 50% of the kids in our youth groups.
Yeah.
Would you agree? Would you disagree? Would you?
No, that all sounds correct to me. I have no other thoughts on that. I'm just I'm kind of soaking it in right now because this is all really interesting perspective.
I hope I'm laying out a good perspective.
Yeah, great. I love it.
But then I put down this, just how often do we ask questions?
Yeah.
And are we engaging parents in the conversation? Hey, would you guys be interested in doing a family worship night? You know, not just going, hey, we held family worship night. None of you came. Hey, we held this game time. Again, are you communicating the game time? Are you communicating family worship?
Yeah.
Do your parents value that? Well, again, the only way that I think you know those different things is if you connect with them, is if you ask those questions. And I'm not just talking about on the way out the door. Hey, John, we're going to be doing family worship in a couple of weeks. And so it'll be really great to have you. Like, no, like, am I building a relationship with those parents? That's a tough thing to do. That's a long culture build.
Yeah.
But.
Hope your mic's.
Oh, thanks.
Dylan's giving you a stink eye.
He is.
Yeah.
I can smell it from here.
Yeah. So those are the questions I had. Kyle, did you have any other final thoughts before we move into small group here?
Yeah, I would say.
I don't want to rush you out of it.
No, you're fine. Value, balance, and team are three words that when I knew we were going to talk about this thing, value. Do you know what parents value? Mm-hmm. Have you as a youth ministry or children's ministry identified the culture of what you do value, and is it what you want to value?
Yeah.
You know, do we have changes there? Team. You're building a team, you know, a partnership with these parents. Yeah. Figure out what are they looking for you to do, and you communicate what you're looking for them to do. Everybody's got to be a part of the team, you know, and helping to create the win. And then I would just say that last word of balance, which is so difficult, but making sure that you're not just creating more to do with these parents. Yeah. You know,
I've done a lot of listening today because I genuinely am like, I feel like I'm soaking a lot in.
Well, but please, I don't want to communicate as if I'm an expert in this thing. These are just different things that, man, when I read over these things and asking these questions of myself, I thought, wow, this is really, I think this would even change how I, as a parent, connect with my local church.
Yeah.
So
it's changed my perspective.
Cool. So. Hey, Josh, why don't we kind of head on over to small group?
Yeah, I have one story today.
Do it, Josh.
You want me to read it?
Please.
I'll read it. Okay. So we always ask for funny or encouraging stories. Today I asked for an encouraging story, and I got one that really stood out to me. I thought was really cool. And the guy, I'll read it here. So the guy says, a 6th grade girl who sings for the youth praise team on Wednesday nights says to her Sunday school teacher, I want to do what Josh, who is her youth pastor, does. And the Sunday school teacher says, oh, you know, like singing songs for church on Sundays. And she goes, no, I want to help plan services, coordinate singers, put together bands, lead the church in worship. But I don't think I can do that because I'm a girl, right? So the Sunday school teacher says that, you know, she wants her to talk to the youth pastor about it. And so he finds her youth group, and I'm gonna read it as I imagine him saying.
Okay.
He says, I said, girl, my mom was a minister of music and led the choir for church and the music and worship for the services for years. There's a lot of exclamation points. Just because you're a girl doesn't mean you can't lead. If that's what God's calling you to do, then you got this. And so now she feels like the Lord's calling her to be a worship pastor and lead in this way, you know, surrendering full-time ministry as an adult. And he ends with this thought. He says, got to take time to help students discern God's calling on their life. I really, really love this story because I think it's really cool to just see how, you know, he went and encouraged her. You know, it wasn't a discouragement, just said, hey, if you like this is what God's calling you to do and you want to lead worship and lead music, like,
I love it.
Come and be a part of that. I think it's so important that we encourage students, if they're called, like, they're going to hear so many people say, don't waste your time in ministry. And if they feel like they're being called to full-time ministry and God's providing the way to do that as vocational, like, I think we need to be an encouragement to that because they're going to hear a lot of negative voices saying, don't give your life to the Lord, either vocationally or volunteer or however that is. You're going to hear so much opposition to that.
It's heartbreaking to me when I talk to different students in the summertime about coming to the Bible Institute or even going into full-time ministry. Yeah. And they communicate to me that somebody in their life, even some church people in their life have said,
sometimes youth pastors,
go get a real job, go get a real degree, and then you can do ministry on the side, which sometimes that's the situation. Yeah. Growing up, my youth pastor, we didn't hire a youth pastor. I think we gave him some type of stipend.
Sure.
But I think him and a lot of other leaders ministered because they cared about it.
Yeah.
But it also breaks my heart a lot of times when you look at what we're doing in these children and youth ministries, and it's essentially looking at little kids and saying, hey, color these pictures, put together these puzzles, be over here every once in a while, get up and do the children's choir thing where we all love, because we love to watch that one kid that's like totally distraction and only connecting other parents. Please keep doing that. But like, okay, here's your time. Now get out of the way while the real people do ministry.
Yeah.
And I think we can build and grow. How awesome of an opportunity for this youth pastor to say, listen, my mom did ministry and she did it in this way and she didn't let that hold her back. Don't let something hold you back, know?
Yeah.
And so again, I think that we have an opportunity with these young kids to instill a passion for ministry with the way that God has gifted them. And if we're waiting until they reach college, or if we're waiting until they're in 11th and 12th grade, as one author said it, we just haven't missed the boat, we've missed the entire ocean. Because we've told them to sit down and be quiet and stay over there.
Yeah.
And you may not have said that verbatim with your words, but have our actions said, no.
Yeah.
You're too young to get involved. I love that my daughter in sixth grade, they started to give her opportunities to learn how to do the soundboard.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
And she's getting excited about it.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, sometimes as a dad who's up front, I'm like, yeah, but why don't you come and sing? She doesn't want to sing. Now she loves singing.
Sure.
But she wants to help other people sing.
That's so cool.
And so I love that. I love what this guy has done is he took a passion of this girl's abilities and encouraged her for Jesus.
Yeah, so thank you, Josh. Thanks for sending that in. Guys, you can send your stories. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Facebook. Stacking Chairs Pod. That's where we are everywhere. Hit us up. It's on the lower third. We really want to hear how God is working in youth ministry and what God's doing in your guys' lives. Well, Kyle, this has been an episode of Stacking Chairs, a youth ministry podcast all about serving youth ministry, whether it be youth camp or youth group, whatever God is doing, that's what we're talking about.
Do you remember the Micro Machines guy?
No.
I do, but that's because I'm older than you.
You are.
He talked really fast.
Well, hey, we look forward to whatever God's going to do in your guys' youth groups, your youth ministries. Make sure you're going reaching out to parents. Thanks so much for listening. And that's Stacking Chairs.
Go change the world.
Yeah.